Hare Krishna, Namaste. Chapter 15 is entitled as Purushottama Vidya, Purushottama Yogam. Sloka 6. Na tat bhāsayate sūryo, na śaśāṅko na pāvakaḥ, yad gatvā na nivartante, dhāma paramaṁ. In the previous sloka, Krishna mentioned gachanti amūಢāः padam avyayam tat. That is, one who surrender unto him attain to that eternal kingdom or attain to that state by his grace. Padyate iti padam. Tat padam, which is mentioned in that verse, is being elaborated over here in this 6th verse. Padyate iti padam, the entity to be attained is called padam. That which one attains, that entity is called padam. So that padam, the term padam, can be the Supreme Lord, the individual self, or the supreme abode, the spiritual abode. All these can be fit into the term padam. Likewise, in this verse, dhāma, which has been used, tad dhāma paramaṁ. Dhāma can mean light, jyotis, or place, and also a form can be referred to dhāma. So different acharyas have picked differently based on these different meanings of these terms. Keeping that in mind, let's enter into the meaning and the details of the sloka. Tat, that, which could be the self, could be the Supreme Lord, or could be the Supreme Abode. Depends on the interpretation of the acharyas. Sūryo, the sun, na bhāsayate, cannot illuminate. Na śaśāṅko, nor the moon, na pāvakaḥ, nor fire, yad gatvā, attaining which, na nivartante, do not return. Dhāma, that light of the abode, self, or the Lord's form, again varies on various interpretation. Paramaṁ is supreme, mama is mine. Prabhupada's translation: that supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. Before we enter into the details of the sloka, a short introduction or a recap of what we have done in the 13th chapter, verse 3, as it is very relevant to recollect what we saw over there to understand what we are going to discuss in this sloka. There are substances called dravya, which can be grouped in certain ways. Prakriti, Kala, Nitya Vibhuti, Jivatma, Paramatma, Jnana, these are all dravyas. Nitya Vibhuti is the spiritual world, Vaikunta, the one which is above the material world, called Prakriti. Prakriti is a material nature. Kala is the time factor. Jivatma is the living entity. Paramatma is the Supreme Lord, Super Soul. Jnana is the knowledge. All these are called dravyam. How do we group them is very important. 3 ways of grouping them: Jada and Ajada. Number 2, Pratyak, Parak. Number 3, Chit and Achit. Jada means those objects, substances that does not have self-illumination on its own. Prakasham is absent in the substance, and those substances are called jada. Whereas those substances that has prakasha, illumination, self-illumination, then they are called ajada. For example, a pot becomes visible, illuminated by the vision of the Atma. It is Atma's knowledge, jnana, through the eyes, which when it sees the pot, then the pot becomes illuminated. Otherwise, it is not. Now let's apply the same here. The Prakriti and Kala are jada. That is, they are always cognized only with the aid of others like light or sun, moon, through the sense organs, etc. So they are called jada. Ajada, which is Swayam Prakasa, Nitya Vibhuti, that the spiritual world, Jnana, Jivatma and Paramatma, they are capable of being cognized without the need for any other aid. It doesn't require a sunlight, moonlight or any electricity. They are Swayam Prakasa. This is one type of grouping, Jada and Ajada. Next one is Pratyak and Parak. This is a second grouping. Parak means when an object only manifests or cognizant to others, not to itself, then it is called Parak. Whereas when an object manifests to itself, is cognizant by itself, then it is called Pratyak. For example, a pot doesn't recognize by itself. It doesn't think I am a pot. It doesn't recognize. It has to be recognized by other entity. Therefore, it is Parak. However, the Atma can cognize itself. Whenever we say I, it means we have recognized ourselves. We are cognizant of ourselves. When someone speaks about themselves by saying I, that means the Atma must have recognized itself. Therefore, it is called Pratyak. With this understanding, let's group it. Jivatma and Paramatma are the two which are able to recognize themselves without the help of the other entity. Hence they are called Pratyak. Whereas the Prakriti, Kala, Nitya Vibhuti and Jnana are Parak, because they are not capable of cognizing themselves. They require a third entity to recognize them. So we have seen Jada and Ajada, Pratyak and Parak, and lastly the third grouping is Chit and Achit. Chit means sentient being, Achit means non-sentient. That is, Chit that possesses Jnana, knowledge, and Achit are those which doesn't possess knowledge. Based on this, when we group it, Jivatma and Paramatma are Chit. They too are sentient being. They possess knowledge. Whereas Prakriti, Kala, Nitya Vibhuti, Jnana, none of those four possesses knowledge. Knowledge does not possess knowledge. Therefore, achit, non-sentient. Jada and ajada, pratyak and parak, chit and achit. These are the three groupings by which everything can be put into. With this understanding, it will be very easy to understand what we are going to see further in the sloka. Since tat param and dhāma, which has multiple meaning based on the context, when we have this understanding of the grouping, then that becomes easier to understand as well. For example, if we take tat param to be atma, then applying that into what we learned just now, atma is ajada, meaning it is capable of being cognized without the need of any other aid. Atma is pratyak, meaning it is cognizant of itself, and atma is chit, it possesses knowledge. Same thing applies to paramatma. Paramatma is ajada and paramatma is pratyak and paramatma is chit. When we take the spiritual world, nitya vibhuti is ajada as well. It doesn't require a light, a sun, a moon, fire, electricity to be cognized. It is swayam prakasa, therefore it is ajada. The spiritual world, nitya vibhuti, is parak. It is not pratyak, it is parak. Let's remember, pratyak means being cognizant of themselves. It is pratyak, which is jivatma and paramatma. Whereas nitya vibhuti is parak. It is not capable of cognizing itself. Therefore, it is parak. And lastly, nitya vibhuti, the spiritual world, is achit. It is not a sentient being. It is non-sentient. Because the spiritual world does not possess itself knowledge. Therefore, it is achit. So, the nitya vibhuti spiritual world is ajada, is parak, is achit. Whereas jivatma and paramatma are also ajada, but they are pratyak and chit. The last two are the only difference between jivatma, paramatma and the spiritual world. So, if we consider the meaning of padam to be the spiritual world, nitya vibhuti, then we know that it is ajada, which doesn't require a third aid to be recognized. It is swayam prakasa, it is self-illuminated, and the spiritual world is parak, which cannot recognize by itself. The other entity should recognize it. And also the spiritual world is achit, because it doesn't possess knowledge. That which has knowledge is chit, that which doesn't have knowledge is achit. Now apply jivatma to the term padam. Then jivatma is ajada. It is capable of being recognized, cognized without the help of anything else. Jivatma is pratyak. It can recognize itself. It is not that someone else or some other object needs to come and say that you are I, the Atma. And the Jivatma is Chit, sentient being, because it possesses knowledge, jnana. And same applies to Paramatma, the super soul. Super soul is ajada, doesn't require a sun, moon or any of those things to recognize it. And Paramatma is pratyak, it can recognize by itself. And Paramatma is chit, it possesses knowledge. The reason that we spent a session on this one is because when we read and understand the purports and commentaries of the acharyas, they use the terms illuminate, effulgent, terms like that. So now that we understood what they mean by these groupings of jada, ajada, pratyak, parak, chit, achit, we'll be easily able to what has been said both in the translation and the commentaries. If needed, please listen to this session one more time. In the next session, we'll get into the details of this sloka. Namaste. Hare Krishna.